Okay, last time we started Parak Lamed Hey. We are on top is page Mem Dalit, on the bottom it's 158. Okay, we're 8 lines in the bottom of the page. We're going to start. We learned a few lines. We're going to start 8 lines in the bottom of the page. The Alter Rebbe, briefly, just to make a synopsis of what we learned last week. The Alter Rebbe says that the action of mitzvahs that is very close and easy for a person to serve Hashem, in your mouth, in your heart, for action. But Alter Rebbe is explaining in this parak, what does it mean to explain better the depth of action when it comes to mitzvahs. So he says like this, we also need to understand, and we spoke about at great length last Wednesday night, what is the purpose of a Beinani's soul coming down into the world, into the body, if he can never become a tzaddik, he can only become a Beinani. Like we learned, in order to be a tzaddik, you have to be born with the ability to be a tzaddik. If you're not born with that ability, you cannot become a tzaddik. So basically, the Beinani's life is a constant struggle without being able to win. What's the purpose of that? So to explain that, the Alter Rebbe says, and this is what we're middle of now. He says, what the Yenuka, the brilliant kid of the Zohar, said, Shlomo Melech says in the Pasuk, "Achacham eina b'roisho." The wise person's eyes are in his head. So the kid asks, and the foolish person's eyes are where? Also in the head. He says that the Yenuka of the Zohar explains the following. What it means is a person should not walk 4 cubits without their head covering. Why? Because the Shekhinah rests on the head of the person, the Gandhi's divine presence rests on the head of the person. So therefore, this fire of Hashem, and this is very important for what we're learning today, this fire needs oil to fuel it. If there's no oil, the fire is going to leave. You want to keep this divine presence. And he says, the person's a wick. They look like a wick. The Shekhinah, the fire of God, is on our heads. The pasuk is green. Shaman Aresha Yachsel Shlomo Melech says in another, don't be missing oil. What does it mean, oil? Torah and mitzvahs. So in order to keep the divine presence on us, we have to fuel it. In fact, last week we were discussing, that's why Kavanas are called bread, Hashem's bread. Why? Because in order to stay alive in a body, we need to have bread, food. So in order to keep Hashem in the world, we need mitzvahs. So now what we started last week, we're going to learn it now again. I mean, this part. Why does a Jew need mitzvahs to connect themselves to Hashem if we have a neshama which is part of Hashem? And as we discussed last week, the neshama is even greater than Torah. So why do we need mitzvahs? Why isn't it enough just by having the neshama? He says like this. Being a beer and mushals, that the first few lines we learned already. The explanation of this analogy. Shehim shall hashchina, that he likens the Yenuk and the Zohar, likens the ray of the Shechina, la'erd aner, to the constant the fire of a candle, sheina meir v'nechas b'psila, that the fire does not shine, and not only it doesn't hold on to the wick, b'li shaman, without oil. If you put fire on a wick without oil, the fire is going to burn the wick. In order to keep a fire in the wick, that it should shine and give light, it needs oil. The kach, in the same way, and a shechina shed al gufa adam. The shechina, the divine presence, can only rest on the body of the person. Shenim shel psila, which is likened to a wick, like he said before. Elai de maisim tevim daf, only through mitzvahs. Not love, not fear. Practical action mitzvahs is the fuel that keeps the neshama, that keeps godliness on the person. And he says, "V'leidai," and he says like this. And it's not enough, b'nishmasi, to have the neshama, She chelek alakam imau, which is a part of Hashem. The neshama is a part of Hashem, like we learned. Liasi kashem and lepsila. That should be the oil. Why do I need actions of mitzvahs? Why can't I have my neshama? It should be a fuel. Why can't it be? So he says like this. Every intellectual person will understand the following. In a nishma sa'ada, the neshama of a person, even if he's a complete tzaddik, the highest level of a tzaddik, not only did he kill the Yetzer Hara, but he transformed it to Kedusha. So he has two godly souls and no animal soul. Eved Hashem, and he serves God with the highest level of love and fear, the love of enjoyment of God. He's the highest level possible of a tzaddik, serving Hashem with love and fear to the highest level. Afal became nevertheless. He's still not truly nullified completely. To become one with Hashem. I'm going to explain this in a second. To become one and the same, with an ultimate unity. It's a separate entity. Yireh Hashem, who fears God and loves Hashem. Meaning as follows. When I have an emotion, I love, or I fear, or awe, whatever you want to call it. If I love Hashem, I only love Hashem. I don't love the world at all. I don't have the Tzaddik Gomer killed the Yetzer Hara and transformed it to Kedusha. He loves Hashem, only Hashem. But he is an existence that loves. It's an entity who loves. It's not one. Yes, it's great that I love Hashem, but I am loving Hashem. I am having fear and awe of Hashem. So he says, a neshama who acts not with action, but with feelings don't make you completely bottled. I still feel. I feel. And he says like this. But when I do an action or a good deed, which is the will of Hashem, and the will of Hashem, is the source of life. Is for all the worlds. And creations, and that God descends down in the world. You'll see a whole thing over here. Okay, I'm going to explain something else now to explain what the Rebbe is saying now. Feelings means I have a feeling. So there's an I. It's a lofty I, but it's still an I. There's something called, I'm going to explain this outside, even though it doesn't sound like it's connected, but it is. There's what's called, in Chassidic language, Pnimius Saratzin, the real will, and there's Chitzenius Saratzin, the external will. This exists by a person. There's external will, I want something, but it's not the ultimate will. Simple example. A person wants to work. You want a job. Why do they want a job? Because they want to make money. In order to make money, you have to have a job. So yes, I want to work, but that's not my real intent. My real intent is to make money. And you could take that even a step further. Why do I want the money? Because I want to live like a Jew. Talking on spiritual levels. Because I want to live like a Jew. So yeah, I want to work, but that's not real. Because the real thing is I want money. That's also not real because I want to buy things with the money. So the ultimate purpose is what I really want. But in order to get my real wanting, I have to first do external wantings. How do I get money? How do I buy things? I need money. How do I get money? I need to work. So therefore I want to work. I want money. But the real Kavana is, I want to buy things. The same thing is with Hashem. Hashem wanted to create a world. He wanted to create a world. But why did he want to create the world? That's the external world. Yeah, of course, Hashem wanted to create a world. How do we know? Because he did. What's the purpose of creation of the world? Because he wanted a dira v'tachtenim. Hashem wanted a dwelling place down here in the lowest of the lowest of the low physical world. Hashem says, I want a dwelling place. Therefore, what's the real will of Hashem? Not the wanting the world. The real will of Hashem is to make a dwelling place for Hashem in this physical world. That's the pnimius ratzon. So therefore, what's the real will of Hashem in creating worlds? Torah mitzvahs. That's what he wanted. Dira v'tachtenim. Dira v'tachtenim is not only made with love and fear. I can love God, but if I don't put on tefillin, I'm not making a dira v'tachtenim. I can learn all about tefillin. I can learn all the Kabbalistic things about tefillin. I can love putting on tefillin. But until I do the action of the mitzvah, I didn't do it. I didn't create the pnimius ratzon. I didn't fulfill the real will of why Hashem made the world. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. The actions of Torah and mitzvahs is the real intent of why Hashem created the world. So let's see this now inside. Second line from the top. So he says like this. The guy that loves Hashem, emotions, that's you who has the emotion. That's not ultimate bittul. But mitzvahs and ma'asim teivim, which are saying they use bar of the will of Hashem. La'aseis, remember the action mitzvahs. But it's saying they use bar humakar achayim. That is the real source of all life. L'chol ha'elam is v'abruim, for all the worlds. Why did Hashem create all the worlds and all the creatures in each one of the worlds? That godliness comes upon them. Through many contractions and concealments and removals. And the concealment of godliness, because if God would be revealed in this world, there wouldn't be a physical world. There wouldn't be tachtenim. There would only be only God. And I'm going to explain this more in a second. And the descent of the levels, that it's able to create and form yesh miyayin, something from nothing, v'davar nifrad b'fnei atzmei, and a separate entity by itself. Is called as shouldn't be non-existent. Meaning like this, Alter Rebbe now is explaining the external will of Hashem wanting to create worlds. Why did Hashem create worlds? Because he wanted people. So therefore, how does an infinite God create a finite world? Again, the external will is Hashem wanted a world. The real will of Hashem is because he wanted a dwelling place down here. But what's the external will of Hashem? He said the external will of Hashem is Hashem, infinite God, in order to create a finite, limited world, had to limit himself more and more and more and more and more and more and more until it becomes a physical world that doesn't feel godliness. Because if world would feel godliness, then world wouldn't exist. It would only be godly. So he's saying the whole existence of the world is only the external will of Hashem. Let's do it, and I'm going to explain it. You'll see, we'll understand in a second. Mitzvahs, but mitzvahs, which is the real purpose of creation, the Ein Sham has to upon him cloud, and there's no concealment by mitzvahs. This is openly what Hashem wants. I look at the world, I don't know what Hashem wants. By mitzvahs, I know this is what Hashem wants. Then, the life of God, godliness in the mitzvah, is is not a separate entity. It's one, and connected and bound to the will of Hashem, and becomes one with Hashem. Meaning, Al Rebbe is saying very simple. The external will that Hashem wanted a world. Yes, but he had to limit himself and conceal himself, hiding after concealment, after limitation and concealment, until he created a physical world. That's what he wanted. But when you look at the world, what he wanted, you don't see God. What's the real purpose of creation? That Jews should do Torah and mitzvahs. So when a Jew does Torah and mitzvahs, that's the real open will of Hashem, not the external will of Hashem that he wanted to create world, and therefore he had to make it in such a way. You look at the world, you don't see that there's a God. But when a person does a mitzvah, that mitzvah is doing openly the will of Hashem. That means not the external will of Hashem becomes one with us, the real will of Hashem, of why he made you and me and the world and everybody else in it and every other creation that exists in the world. What was the purpose of all that? Because Hashem wanted a dira b'tachtein, he wanted a Jew in this world full of concealment and blockages and lack of godliness. And not only lack of God's anti-godliness. Why did he make such a world? Because Hashem wanted that in such a low world, a Jew should be doing the real Kavana of creation, which is Torah mitzvahs. Therefore, when a Jew does an action mitzvah, they are actually openly connecting themselves and becoming one with Hashem. If I only love Hashem, it's me loving. I didn't become one with Hashem. I'll give you a Gashmistic example of this, that married people, I think, would understand it better than those that aren't yet. And that is very simple. You're going to tell your spouse, I love you very, very much in my heart, but that's it. I'm not doing anything for you. I'm not going to do anything, but I love you. What is that? Even if you really love them, which it can't be true, but if you love them, but that's not love. You know when you show love, when you do things for them, when the action is done. So when a Jew, just because they have a neshama, granted the neshama is a part of Hashem, but the neshama doesn't do mitzvahs without the body. The neshama is a spiritual entity. What does this neshama have? Love of Hashem, fear of Hashem. That's wonderful. But it's not doing the real will of it. It's not connecting to the essential real will of Hashem, of why Hashem created the world. Therefore, when a Jew does a physical mitzvah, they're connecting to the ultimate essence of Hashem. More than love and more than fear. It's wonderful things, love and fear. They stimulate you to do action. But the bottom line is the love and fear is still something that loves. Someone who loves, someone who fears. You do a mitzvah, you connect. And therefore, what's the fuel to keep Hashem in here, down here on our head, so to speak? Why did Hashem create the world? For mitzvahs. You do a mitzvah, that keeps Hashem in the world. That's the fuel. Loving Hashem and fearing Hashem in this world without action, because action is what makes it happen, you're not fueling godliness to be in the world. That's only external. And therefore it says in Chassidus, the expression, that neshamas, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu, they're waiting in Gan Eden 3,000 years to come back into a body. Why? because only the body can connect to the essence of Hashem. Because spirituality, love and fear, which is for the neshama spiritual, does not connect to the essence of Hashem. Only when you do something physical, a physical mitzvah, you do a physical mitzvah, then you're revealing the real will of Hashem, why He created the world. And it's a dir loy to the essence of Hashem. So when a Jew does a mitzvah, he connects to the essence of Hashem. And what a Jew needs to remember, what we learned before in Parak Chafei, in the 25th parak, the Rebbe said the expression that when a Jew does a mitzvah, because we're connecting to the essence of Hashem, and that level of Torah, of godliness is above time and place, so therefore the Rebbe says the expression, you do a mitzvah once in action, you connect it to the essence of Hashem. Because Hashem is above time and place, you're continuously connected. It's not that if I lit Shabbos candles at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, okay, that minute I'm connected. Or I put on tefillin, I'm connected for that half hour. No. You do a mitzvah because you're connecting to the previous of Hashem's will, which is higher than will. It's the essence of Hashem. And the person is doing that mitzvah. They are connecting to a level of godliness above time and place, and therefore it's a continuous connection. To continue, what?
Rabbi Shusterman, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, so if Hashem is spiritual and physical, I know, it's spiritual, I remember all that. But how can He be in this world if He is not spiritual and not physical? And you're telling me that by me doing mitzvahs and bringing everything up spiritually, He's dwelling down here. How?
You just answered it by doing us mitzvah, us doing mitzvah.
But where is He? Where is He? You're telling me this is His home.
But you want to know where God is?
No, I understand. You're telling me that I'm doing spiritual
No, I'm
things.
answering your question. God is where they once asked the great tzaddik, where is God?
I know, wherever you want it to.
You let Him in. Wherever you let Him in, that's where God is. Now, Rebbe is going, by the way, continuing explaining this point that what I'm telling you now. God is all over. By Hashem, there's no difference, physical, spiritual.
Right.
In fact, He's more revealed in the physical than He is in the spiritual, but that's not for now. The bottom line is Hashem is all over the place. There is no difference by the essence of Hashem, correct? If He's in the highest spiritual worlds or the lowest spiritual worlds. To give you a simple physical analogy of that, if you go and hide behind the curtain, okay, I don't see you, correct? Are you hidden from yourself? Are you hidden? No. What happens if you take now 20 covers and cover yourself? Is there any difference by you how many covers there are? It's still you. Okay? The Rebbe gives a mashal early in Tanya. It's about hugging the king. So let's say you hug your kids. If somebody's talking, please. You want to hug somebody. You want to hug your kid, right? The kid could be wearing, pardon my, but I'm bringing out a point. Could be wearing underwear and then clothes and then a sweater and then a coat, right? Now, is there any difference are you saying I hug the kid more when he's with one set of clothing versus 5 sets of clothing on? Is there any difference? Why? Because what are you hugging? Are you hugging the coat? You're not hugging the coat. You're hugging the thing that's inside of it all. Okay? Hashem, because He's not physical or spiritual, because He's above everything, therefore there isn't a place where He's not. Okay? The question is, How do I connect to that God? The difference is not by Hashem. Hashem is here, okay? And as Chassidus uses the mashal, in a place of manure, the lowest thing, right? Garbage. What makes that manure exist if not God? Now, is God revealed in the manure? No. Is he revealed in the world? So the Alter Rebbe is saying over here, in order for God to be revealed to us, not to him there's no difference. Hashem wanted that we should reveal him. How? By doing what he really wants us to do. Meaning, find him, seek him. We said this many times. There's a passage that says, Ubikashta Misham, we read it on Tisha B'Av, by the way, it's in Parshas V'eschana. Ubikashta Misham, you should seek out from there. As Hashem Alakacha, God your God. Umatzas, and you will find him. Ki sidrishenu b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha. If you seek him out with all your heart and soul, you're going to find him. You want to know the key to why Hashem created the world to make a dira b'tachtainim. Dwelling place means to the essence. In the low world, if you want to put it into one phrase, what is the purpose of creation? It's called the game of hide and go seek. Hashem is hidden from us, not from himself. When you hide from your kids, you're not hidden. You're only hidden from the kids. Okay? Hashem hides from us, Misham. Seek him out from there. He's hidden. Go find him. What happens? The game of hide and go seek is not necessarily that you found them. The game is the looking for them, searching for them. But what happens, chas v'sholem, a parent is playing hide and go seek with the kid, and the parent is hiding, and he's waiting for the kid to find him. And the kid gets bored after 3 minutes of looking, and the kid runs outside to play. And he forgets about finding the father or mother. It's painful. You know why it's painful? I thought he would want to find me. He doesn't want to find me. That's painful. As long as the kid is looking, the game's on. You stop looking, the game's over. Hashem says like this, I created an external will of the world. I wanted a concealed world. It's called Tachtainim, the lowest of the low. It's the most concealed level of godliness possible. Why did Hashem do it? Because he wants a Jew, by doing mitzvahs, the fuel that keeps godliness on our head and in the world. Hashem wants that we should look for him and find him. How do we look for him and find him? When you do what he really created the world for, you're doing it for the purpose of his ultimate purpose of creation. We're doing a mitzvah. That's what reveals God to me, not only to me, but because I'm in the world, I reveal godliness in the whole world. The whole world is gaining from my mitzvah and your mitzvah and his mitzvah and her mitzvah. The Rambam said the whole world is equally balanced. One mitzvah dragged the whole world to good. So that's what the purpose of Torah mitzvahs. So the Alter Rebbe says, if that's the case, it's not enough just to have a neshama that loves Hashem and fears Hashem and things like that. Because it's still, I love, I fear. I'm not connecting to the essence of what Hashem really wants. Like I said, you'll tell your spouse, I love you, and that's where it starts and ends. It's all you. It's not the person. You do things for them. And by the way, again, in the analogy, which makes us understand more so the way it works by Hashem, the more difficult and challenging it is to do it, shows more love than otherwise. Everybody knows in relationships, things in marriages and friendships and raising kids, whatever, all these relationships. Something which is easy doesn't prove it's a great marriage. That you do things to each other, you're nice when it's convenient. That doesn't prove it's a good marriage or good relationship. The more difficult and challenging the things are, the more not only rewarding, but the more accomplishment it is, the more connected you are to that person that you're doing the actions for, because you know that's what they want. And the same thing is, to take it, we have now Mother's Day and Father's Day and all the Secretary's Day, Mother-in-law's Day, and no Father-in-law's Day, only Mother-in-law's Day, and this, all these bunch of interesting holidays. Bottom line is, you want to give somebody a present, do what they want. And there's an expression my father, I remember it, but something like rings and jewelry are like not the true gift. And this is what comes to term mitzvahs also. The true gift is a part of oneself. You give yourself over, and that's only by doing mitzvahs. Because what does it mean doing Torah mitzvahs? It's not I love. Doing Torah mitzvahs means I don't do what I want, I do what you want. Or negative mitzvahs means I don't do what I want, I don't do it because you don't want me to do it. That is connecting to the essence of Hashem. And that is the fuel that makes the purpose of why Hashem created the world to fruition. Then it's what the purpose of creation is all about. So this is what Alter Rebbe is explaining. It's down here in about, yes, up there in the highest of levels, Neshama is greater than Torah. But once we're dealing down here, where Hashem created the world, because he wants a dira b'tachtanim, he wants to be openly revealed his essence in this world, what needs to be done is only mitzvahs. Love and fear is not going to do it. Why? Because the mitzvahs are the real will of Hashem. And therefore, when we do what Hashem really wants us to do, we become one with Hashem. He becomes one with Hashem. And that's what Hashem wants from the creation. Okay, Mitzvah Shem Monday night will be again Parsha. Until then, everybody have a great Shabbos. Easy fast, meaningful fast. And we should be able to celebrate, as Rambam says, to transform the days of fast to days of Simcha with Mashiach.
Amen. Thank you.